What kind of man humiliates the woman carrying his own child on their wedding day? That question echoed in Olivia Morgan's mind as she stood frozen at the front of the small wooden church in Very, Nevada. Her ivory wedding dress hugged the soft curve of her belly, and her trembling hand held a bouquet of wilted wildflowers she had picked herself. The whispers spread like wildfire through the pews. Some faces showed pity, others showed judgment. All eyes were fixed on her. It was April of 1875, a day that was supposed to give her a future. Instead, it was becoming her worst nightmare. Jeremiah Blackburn stood across from her, swaying slightly from whiskey. His once handsome face was twisted into something cruel. The moment she had walked down the aisle, hope had filled her heart. She had believed this marriage meant protection, stability, and a family built from their mistake. She had believed Jeremiah when he promised to care for her and the baby. She had believed in him. Now he was proving she never should have. Jeremiah lifted his pistol and fired a shot into the ceiling. Wood splintered and several women gasped. The church went silent except for Olivia's shaky breathing. "Did you really think I'd raise another man's bastard?" he shouted. Olivia felt her knees weaken. "It's yours, Jeremiah," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I've never been with anyone else." He laughed bitterly. "Liar! Everyone in town knows what you are." The words cut deeper than any bullet. The pastor hid behind his pulpit. No one stood up for her. No one spoke. Olivia felt her heart breaking as she stared at the man she had once trusted, the man who now seemed determined to destroy her. Then the church doors slammed open. Sunlight poured inside, outlining the silhouette of a tall man. Dust swirled around his boots as he stepped forward, spurs jingling with each steady stride. "That's enough." The voice was deep and calm, but carried through the church like thunder. Jeremiah turned, gun still raised. "This ain't your business, Keegan. Get out." Keegan Elliott didn't stop walking. He moved with purpose, eyes locked on Jeremiah. He wore worn denim, dusty boots, and no fancy coat. His revolver hung at his side, not raised, but ready. Olivia blinked through tears. She knew him. He worked at the Triple R Ranch. Quiet, polite. A man who rarely spoke unless spoken to. She never imagined he even noticed her. But here he was. "I'm making it my business," Keegan said calmly. Jeremiah scoffed. "You defending her honor? Too late for that." Keegan didn't flinch. "You know the truth, Jeremiah. That child is yours." A shocked murmur spread across the church. Olivia stared at Keegan, stunned. How did he know? Jeremiah's face darkened. "You calling me a liar?" "I'm calling you a coward," Keegan said. "You made a promise, and now you want to shame her because it's easier than being a man." Jeremiah lifted his pistol toward Keegan, but for the first time his hand shook. "You ought to walk away," Keegan warned, voice steady, "before you do something you'll regret." Silence hung heavy. Jeremiah scanned the church. No one backed him. No one defended him. Finally, he lowered the gun with a growl. "Fine," he spat. "Take her. She's damaged goods anyway." Keegan's fist moved faster than anyone could track. The punch landed clean, sending Jeremiah crashing onto the altar steps. Gasps filled the church. "Apologize?" Keegan ordered. Jeremiah wiped blood from his lip, glaring up at him. "To her," Keegan repeated. Jeremiah turned toward Olivia, humiliation written across his face. "Sorry," he muttered. Keegan nodded once. "Now leave." Jeremiah stumbled to his feet and stormed out, slamming the church doors behind him. Silence followed. Olivia stood trembling, unsure whether she should cry, collapse, or flee. Keegan turned toward her, removing his hat. "Miss Morgan," he said softly, voice different now, gentle, respectful. "I apologize for stepping in." Her voice barely worked. "I believe the ceremony was already ruined before you arrived, Mr. Elliott." Something like a ghost of a smile touched his lips. Then, to her shock, Keegan lowered himself to one knee. Every breath in the church stopped. "Miss Olivia Morgan," he said, steady and sincere, "I know this is sudden. I know we barely know each other, but I would be honored if you would consider marrying me instead." Olivia stared at him, heart pounding, mind racing. This man, this stranger, had defended her when no one else would. And now he was offering her a future. "Why?" she whispered. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said softly, "and because you deserve better than what happened today." Her voice shook. Yes. The word felt terrifying. And right. The pastor stepped forward, dazed but willing. And less than 10 minutes after being abandoned, Olivia Morgan became Olivia Elliot. As Keegan helped her into his wagon, the question echoed in her heart. Had she just saved her future, or stepped into another unknown disaster? The ride from the church to the ranch was quiet, but it was not an uncomfortable silence. Olivia sat beside Keegan in her once beautiful wedding dress, now wrinkled from tears, fear, and a day she would never forget. The horses' hooves thudded along the dusty road, and the Nevada sky stretched wide above them, painted with soft evening gold. Keegan finally spoke. "I have a small house on the ranch. Nothing grand, but it's safe, and it's yours now, too." Olivia nodded, unsure what a new bride was supposed to say to a man she barely knew. "Thank you," she whispered. He gave her a small glance. "You don't need to thank me, not for wanting to protect you." The simple honesty in his voice made her chest ache. After some time, he asked softly, "Did you love him?" Olivia swallowed. The truth tasted bitter. "I thought I did, or maybe I just wanted to." Keegan nodded. Sometimes the wrong man can make a woman doubt her worth. Olivia blinked against the sting in her eyes. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. When they reached the Triple R Ranch, Keegan helped her down carefully, hands steady and respectful. The house was modest, hand-built timber, a small porch, a window glowing with lamplight, but something about it felt safe. He opened the door for her, stepping aside. Inside, the room was simple but warm. A fireplace, a sturdy table, a single rocking chair, and wooden shelves filled with tools and folded linens. It smelled of pine and saddle leather. Keegan cleared his throat. "There's a bedroom." He gestured toward a small doorway. "You can have the bed. I'll take the chair tonight." Olivia shook her head quickly. "No, I don't want you sleeping in a chair because of me." His eyes softened. "You're my wife now. That means I take care of you." The word wife felt strange, heavy, frightening, comforting. After a moment, she only nodded. As she changed into a soft flannel shirt he'd offered, far more comfortable than her wedding dress, she stared at herself in the small mirror. Her belly curved forward, already showing. Her hair was messy, her eyes red. But something was different. She didn't look broken. She looked like someone beginning again. When she stepped back into the main room, Keegan was cooking beans and bacon on the stove. He turned, paused, then looked down shyly when he saw her wearing his shirt. "It suits you," he murmured. They shared their first meal in gentle quiet, speaking only when needed. It was an awkward silence. It was a careful one, two strangers learning each other. Later, while washing dishes, Olivia finally asked a question that had been pressing her chest all evening. "How did you know the baby was his?" Keegan leaned his forearms on the table. "I heard him bragging in the saloon. He told the men he'd convinced you, said you were desperate to please him." Olivia's heart clenched. "I'm sorry," she murmured. His expression sharpened, not in anger, but in disbelief. "You did nothing wrong," he said firmly. "None of this is your shame." No one had ever said those words to her. Her throat tightened. "Thank you," she whispered. "Always," he replied quietly. When it came time to rest, Keegan stood near the bed, uncertain. "I'll take the floor if you prefer," he offered. Olivia hesitated. "I trust you." He nodded once, deeply. They lay side by side, fully clothed, facing opposite directions, careful not to touch. But the closeness felt strangely right, safe. Before sleep claimed her, Olivia whispered into the darkness. "Why did you do it? Why stop the wedding?" Quote. Keegan was quiet for several seconds, then his voice came, low and honest. "Because I couldn't stand there and watch a good woman be destroyed." Her heartbeat stumbled. "But you don't even know me." Another pause. "I watched you long before today," he admitted. "At the general store, helping folks. You were always kind, gentle, patient." He exhaled. "And I knew Jeremiah was wrong for you." Silence stretched between them, full of meaning neither knew how to speak. "Good night, Olivia," Keegan murmured. "Good night," she whispered back. Sleep came easier than expected. For the first time in months, she wasn't afraid. And deep in the quiet of the night, with the steady rhythm of Keegan breathing beside her, Olivia felt something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. A new beginning was taking shape. But beginnings often come with storms. And Olivia had no idea hers was just forming on the horizon. Wait, before we move on, what do you think about the story so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'm really curious to know. The following weeks changed everything. Keegan and Olivia settled into a rhythm quiet and steady. Keegan rose before sunrise to work the ranch, always leaving a cup of warm tea for her before stepping outside. In the evenings, they shared simple meals and careful conversations that slowly grew longer and more meaningful. The whispers in town took longer to fade. Some people avoided looking at her. Others looked too long. But Keegan stood beside her every time she entered town, hand resting lightly at her back, not claiming her, but reassuring her. And though Olivia still felt uncertain at times, she never felt alone. One late afternoon, as summer sun dipped behind the Nevada hills, Olivia set potatoes to boil when she felt a strange tightening deep in her belly. It wasn't painful, just unexpected. An hour later, it happened again. Then again. By sunset, she knew. The baby was coming. Keegan returned from the far pasture just as she steadied herself against the table, breathing through the growing pressure. His face went pale. "Olivia?" "It's time," she whispered. Everything moved quickly after that. Keegan saddled a horse and sent a ranch hand racing toward town for Dr. Collins. He returned to Olivia's side and never left again. Not for water, not for rest, not even when his shirt was damp with sweat from supporting her weight through each contraction. "You're doing so well," he murmured as she leaned into him, gripping his shoulders. Hours passed. Outside, the stars came out one by one. Inside, Olivia fought through waves of pain stronger than anything she'd ever imagined. But Keegan was always there, holding her, steadying her, whispering encouragement in that deep, steady voice that somehow made her braver. When the doctor finally arrived, Olivia was exhausted, but ready. "Just a little more," Dr. Collins instructed. "The baby's almost here." Olivia pushed, gripping Keegan's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. Then, a cry, sharp, strong, a sound that filled the small cabin with life. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. Keegan let out a shaky breath, his eyes shining with something deeper than joy, something like awe. The doctor laid the newborn in Olivia's arms. Tiny, warm, beautiful, tears filled her eyes. "Hello, little one." Keegan crouched beside her, voice low and unsteady. "He's perfect." Olivia nodded, overwhelmed. "He is." "What shall we name him?" Keegan asked softly. She looked at her son, dark hair, tiny fists, a determined little cry, and then at Keegan. "Thomas," she whispered. "Thomas Elliot." Keegan smiled, a real, full smile she had never seen before. "Thomas," he repeated. "Welcome home, son." Hours later, when the doctor had gone and the storm of birth had quieted, Thomas slept in a blanket near the fireplace. Olivia sat in bed, exhausted, but peaceful. Keegan sat beside her, his hand resting lightly over hers. "You saved me," she murmured. Keegan shook his head gently. "No, you saved yourself. I just made sure you didn't face it alone." She looked at him, really looked. The man who stood up for her when no one else did. The man who protected her dignity when hers had been torn away. The man now holding her hand with patient respect and quiet love. "Keegan," she whispered, voice shaking, "I don't want us to just be married in name anymore." He froze, breath catching. She reached up, trembling, and touched his cheek. "I want this to be real." Keegan cupped her hand, eyes filled with emotions he'd held back for weeks. "Olivia, are you sure?" quote. She nodded. "I have never been more sure of anything." He leaned forward slowly, giving her every chance to change her mind. She didn't. Their lips met, gentle at first, then full of everything they had both been waiting to share. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't uncertain. It was a promise. Hours later, wrapped in his arms, Olivia whispered the words she never thought she would say again. "I love you." Keegan tightened his hold around her. "And I've loved you from the moment I walked into that church." The fire crackled softly. Outside, snow began to fall over the ranch like a quiet blessing. Inside the small cabin, a new family slept, bound not by fear, mistakes, or circumstance, but by choice, by respect, by a love that was steady, lasting, and strong enough to change everything. Their beginning had been chaos, but their future, it was finally theirs.